Tanking in N+ has always seemed like something unreachable to me. Only the select few gigachats could take on the responsibility. Only they have the skill, the knowledge, the strategic thinking, and can handle the stress. Tanking is arguably the most stressful role in the game. Tank's mistake is the hardest to recover from, and when things go wrong, they usually take all the blame. Yet when things go right, the praise rarely goes their way. The War Within Season 3 is just around the corner, and I enjoy WoW releases as much as anyone, so I thought to give tanking a shot, and see if I'm able to join the ranks of the gigachat tanks. The goal is to get the 3700 Rio Plus. The goal is a bit ambitious, let's see how far I can get. Hi there! This is a story on how I got the 3700 Rio as a new tank in the War Within Season 3. I will sum up the journey, what mistakes I made, what I could have done better, what I did right, and how much money I spent. And was it actually worth it? The week before 11.2 patch release, I leveled 4 tanks: Paladin, Monk, Warrior, and Demon Hunter. From all the PTR tier list, I gathered that the meta tank would be one of those 4 specs. Leveling tanks turned out to be fast and somewhat addictive. I did it by spamming dungeons. The queues were instant. It is nice to have 6 tanks leveled up when there's nothing to do in between patches or expansions. If your goal is to time all plus 12s in your first season, any tank will do. For pushing high keys, rerolling to the meta tank as soon as it's known is going to make getting Rio much easier. I watched a lot of videos on how to get everything from the first week of 11.2 release. The campaign quests to get Cloak, the world boss, the Delphs and M0s. At this point there was only 1 week until the season starts, and with limited time I had to pick a tank I would dedicate most of my time to. I hesitated, I didn't know which tank to choose. Anxiety crippled me for a while, I was stuck, unsure of which path to take. Influenced by the biggest prod Paladin enjoyer Yoda TV, I decided to focus on Paladin. I finished the campaign, I completed world quests, Delphs, and all available M0s. On other tanks, I completed 4 Delphs to fill the vault. I would say that I should have sticked with 1-2 tanks tops, ideally Prod Pala and Warrior, instead of 4 tanks. I shouldn't have spent any time on my Monk and VDH in the first week. Picking Paladin as a main tank for my goal of reaching 3700 Rio, even though I thought that Paladin wasn't fun when I was leveling, I'm glad I chose Paladin. Endless kicks and utility. At first it was hard to get used to it and use utility on teammates without failing to do damage and staying alive. But once I played for some time, I have saved a lot of teammates with Lay of Hands, Hand of Sack and Spell Word. It feels satisfying. With that being said, Paladin was only a good choice for my goal of reaching 3700 Rio. In a sense, it's a great tank for beginners. You have Bubble to get you out of your mistakes. On the other hand, I think this is the most complicated tank to play. Staying alive, rotation, utility, kicks and getting out of mana is a thing. The meta tank this season, Warrior, is much easier to play. If it wasn't my first time tanking, I would have switched to Warrior early into the season. Once you know all the dungeons, how to gather pulls, all tank busters, understanding how to stay alive, you can switch to any tank quickly. When the season started, I have wasted a lot of time procrastinating. I was afraid of the responsibility. I didn't know the dungeons, what bosses do, and dungeons routes were even imported in MDT. On top of that, my skill on Paladin was non-existent. I thought that I would be dying all the time. Plus it seemed like memorizing the routes was too much work. Plus I was afraid of other people's toxicity when I made a mistake or died mid-pool. After a while I got over myself and headed into Floodgate. I ran around the normal difficulties counting the pulls from the route I got from the internet. And after that I got into my first +2. It turned out to be better than I thought. Of course I made a lot of mistakes, in rotation, in movement, in the route, but I also learned a lot from it. Step by step, I was learning each dungeon from normal to +10. There were a lot of mistakes, bad plays, missed counts, dying, terrible boss positioning, depletes, doubts. I wanted to quit so many times. The fight is pretty straightforward. Can't wait to try a +18 here. I had to wait 3 months to try it on +18. Still the easiest boss ever. Once I got comfortable in one dungeon, I spent so much time resisting going into next. I didn't have problems getting into groups. With the tank shortage, even low gear, low Rio, it didn't matter. I got invited. I regret procrastinating. I moved at insanely slow pace, learning 1 dungeon a week. Of course, apart from stalling, I spent a lot of time working on the videos, since I had never made one before, and it turned out more difficult and time consuming at the beginning than I thought. Also, I think I approached tanking the lowest keys too seriously. Imagine you as a DPS player joining into +2, and a tank is sharing the route with a name called Kira Push. I wanted the route to be perfect, never missing count. That perfectionism made me procrastinate a lot. I was afraid to make a mistake. So the biggest regret I have is the slow start. I missed like 4 to 5 mythic vaults. It is easy to say now, but at the time tanking felt intimidating. My first plus 10 felt great. I thought it was a great achievement. Finally I could get mythic item from the vault. It was a moment that I got a lot of confidence, that now I can time any dungeon at plus 10. Slowly but surely I got to 3k Rio when I timed all plus 12s and a couple of 13s. My movement and rotation got better, but there's something I never fixed. Since Paladin has 5 ways to kick casts, with one of them being reset quite frequently, I've been so focused on kicking every single cast, which resulted in worse DPS and drained a lot of energy from me. I should have just picked one caster and solo kick it, but I wanted to be the hero, solo kicking everything. Also being always ready to use utility on my group, Bottle Res, which killed me several times during a tongue buster. At this time I memorized routes pretty well, and I started spamming dungeons. I also got faster at editing videos, recording voiceovers and so on. And also I knew every single dungeon well. At around plus 14 and plus 15, tongue busters started hitting hard. I couldn't ignore them any longer. I had to die to one taps a couple of times to treat them more seriously. The best thing about playing tank is that I didn't have to spend hours in LFG. I got invited pretty quickly. For now. I timed all plus 17s pretty easily, except for Floodgate and Priory. These 2 dungeons are the most complicated this season. They are unforgiving with tight timer and lots of DPS and HPS checks. I timed Priory 17 after 7 attempts, and Floodgate after 6 attempts. Most of the fails were on the melt skip at the end in Floodgate. From this point in time, procrastination kicked in again. My hands were sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There was too much pressure. Hard to stay alive. A single mistake meant deep bleeding. Also, the full W routes didn't cut it anymore. I needed more advanced routes, which weren't practiced. I didn't want to let people down. At this time, I discovered M+ on alts. I had a max level Shaman and thought Ele was fun. And is meta, except for a couple of dungeons where Havoc is better. I started giving my Ele and running low keys. It was a breath of fresh air, a way to decompress from tanking. But I got addicted to playing Ele. I kinda stopped trying to get to my Rio goal on my Paladin. I mean, why would I want to be stressed, tanking, when I could just blast stats without caring for out, tongue buster, etc. If it wasn't for my challenge and my channel on YouTube, I would have quit a long time ago. Or maybe never got into tanking in the first place. Don't get me wrong, tanking is fun, and I'm glad I got into it. I tried something new and challenging, but the barrier to entry is way too high. One thing that made me feel great is when I set new personal records, like when my highest key was 17 and I timed plus 18. I instantly got a boost of confidence, knowing that this level is possible for me and I can do it. But on the other hand, this is where getting into keys became problematic. People wanted protection warriors. I started spending a lot of time in LFG trying to get into groups, and after half an hour clicking on refresh LFG, I usually switched to my Ele and blasted plus 10s. But when I got into groups, a quick deplete and here we go again. This felt depressing. At some point I even started gearing my protection warrior, even timed a couple of plus 12s. Having Rio on main helped my ults get into groups even with low gear. The Ecodome was my first plus 19. I planned to get into plus 18 but got accepted to plus 19 due to my friend's DH High Rio, who decided to play with me to fill in the vault. I think I played well, I didn't die a single time. The route, however, for some reason was with a little bit of overcount. I tried to find what went wrong, but couldn't. I adjusted the route with skipping the Sentinel, but by the third boss we already had the count. But I pulled the 4 ads anyway for funnel. In Gambit 19 the timer was looking great, but I depleted it. I was too busy trying to save the hunter, DPS the orb, and having a billion kicks, I let the healer die. We still had enough time, but I failed to stay alive. I was so focused on cast, got nervous, and my rotation was terrible, and I died. We then headed into Floodgate 18. I was so terrified of the melt skip. This time, I failed it. I got the mobs into the corner, pressed the defensive, my group quickly made it without dying, but I pressed melt and stopped running. I turned around to see whether the yachts were skipped, but you can't do that. You have to press melt and start running instantly, so that the yachts don't get aggroed again. I was CR'd. I was trying to deplete this key so hard, it seems. First, the melt skip. Then, when I had only spell word for the tank buster, I moused over my paladin, but at the time Hunter's pet was under me, and I spell worded the pet. I nearly died, I had less than 5% HP. But anyway, it was a timed Floodgate. I was extremely happy, one of the most complicated keys. I had to time 19s without my friend, to prove to myself that I can do it alone. I got into Gambit 19. We easily timed the key with 4.5 minutes left. I then depleted a couple of streets 19, due to lots of death by my group. I still had Priory 18 to time to get Resilient Key for plus 18 dungeons. Priory is a hard dungeon. Insane HPS check with Paladin tolls, bleeds, AoE and ads hitting hard. My friend also helped me with Priory. We timed it with 1 minute left on the timer. I got 16 Rio. My goal is 8 Rio away. I needed to time one more plus 19. I opened my last vault on Paladin. I got an insane ring from the first raid boss. I went into streets 19. This is my third attempt. During the market part, I was low in defensives, but the warrior activated the third part of the RP, which I didn't expect. I almost had my bubble, but with 0.5 seconds on its CD, I died. Luckily, it was a resilient key. I explained that you shouldn't hurry with it and let tank activate the ads. This time this run went great. With more than 1 minute left, we timed the key. I get 11 Rio. And with that, I completed the challenge. 0 to hero tank in M+ is finally done. Such a relief. A huge weight off my shoulders. Overall, the challenge took me a bit more than 3 months. I tanked my first M+ dungeon Floodgate +2 on the 16th of August, and my last key streets +19 on the 20th of November. I had a lot of fun and lots of stress. I went daily from I'm getting better as a tank, I'm doing great, to I'm terrible, I should quit, I'm hopeless. But I think it was worth it. I learned tanking and making videos, and I almost got 400 subs on YouTube, which is huge. And I didn't completely lose my mind trying to balance a full-time job, the gym, YouTube, WoW, and spending time with my wife and cat. So, let's talk about the money I spent during the 0 to Hero challenge. I spent $39 on WoW subscription for 3 months. I bought a WoW token for $20. I subscribed on Patreon to the MDI champion GigaChat Tank Hero Tank TV for his UI for $8. I've been subbed for 3 months to him as a way to support him. Overall, I spent $86. Apart from web subscription, which is $39, the rest was not mandatory. I'm not including here the War Within expansion Epic Edition I bought a year ago. Also, I'm so close to buying the Brutosaur auction house mount for $100, but I tried my best to not to. We got to a bonus part. I started playing Ele Shaman just to relax from tanking. I never planned to do a 0 to hero on DPS spec, but I actually did it. I also reached 3700 something Rio. I even timed +20 holes with my friend. It was his key. There is no way anyone would have invited me to a +20. I got resilient key for +18s and timed a couple of +19s. Playing Ele was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Even though Ele needs a tailored route to do a lot of damage, and sometimes people told me that I suck doing tank DPS, but they just don't understand how Ele works. Anyway, on Ele I spent way too much time trying to get into +18s or 19s. I timed Floodgate from like 20th attempt. I also checked out Frost Decay. I leveled within 10 hours of spamming time walking as a tank. It seemed amazing at the start. You just ignore all mechanics with our IMS, you ignore all pushbacks, creeps, pulls, and you do a lot of DPS with only 3 buttons. You're pretty much immortal. I geared it quickly by spamming +12s. I even killed 2 mythic bosses and got the antenna from the vault. But playing TK got pretty boring way too fast. I also leveled a druid in 10 hours of spamming time walking dungeons. I wanted to try out Resto Druid. It has a lot of buttons to press, tracking lots of things. Healing is challenging. I ran a couple of +2s. Well, by the next expansion, I have all tanks leveled up. I still haven't bought Midnight. I didn't try out beta. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it at this moment or tank it. I'll have to think about it. And by the release date, I will see if this is something that I want to do. Tanking M+ to a higher Rio this time, 3800 or 39. Meanwhile, I'll probably run M+ on Ele or DK or Resto Druid while the season is not finished, even though less and less people are playing each day. I could also do a new challenge until midnight release, reaching level 60 in hardcore. This is something I wanted to do a long time ago. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me taking on the hardcore challenge. Thank you so much for being here with me during the tanking journey. I appreciate your support. Everyone who subbed, watched, left comments and likes. If it wasn't for you all, I would have never reached my goal. And special thanks to my friend DH2 Squarny who helped me in the most complicated dungeons this season. This is it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, so that I will see you in the next challenge.